sorry, the number you have reached is not in service. Please check the number or try your call again. This is a recording.
Are you listening?
Listen to people. Learn what you can.
What is racist and what is just ignorance?
If you've got a friend or an ally or somebody in your corner there to support you, amazing.
I just can't wait for the day where we're no longer pleasantly surprised that someone is LGBT+.
Ask questions on a personal level, do better.
Asking pronouns.
It was like the moment that I realised I was different.
Winning that award topped this year off for me.
Because without you, this world wouldn't be the same.
Are you listening?
Are you listening?
Are you listening?
Are you listening?
Hi everyone, and a very warm welcome to you all. This is Oxfordshire Youth's podcast, Are You Listening? And I have been invited on to introduce this special 3-part edition of Are You Listening? My name is Emmy O'Shaughnessy and I am the Director of Innovation and Growth and Deputy CEO of Oxfordshire Youth. And I'm delighted to be here with you at the beginning of the next 3 episodes of the Youth in Mind live podcast. We're really excited to bring this to you. It was recorded back in July 2023 at this year's 5th annual mental health conference, which we host with our partner Oxfordshire Mind. And what is Youth in Mind? Well, if you are coming onto this podcast today and you weren't at the event, then fear not, because you get an opportunity to listen to some of the leading voices in the mental health space at the moment, from academia to the charity sector, education and health. You'll also be hearing from some amazing young people who are making waves in the campaigning world and with music organisations as well. A quick overview of what Youth in Mind is, so that you can make sure you come and find out more in person next year. Youth in Mind is an event for professionals that work with children and young people. We think Youth in Mind is really special in that it brings together statutory bodies, so the local authorities. We had Oxford City Council and Oxfordshire County Council present, alongside school workers, police, health, and of course the voluntary sector, united by our shared passion to improve the mental health outcomes for children and young people. But the most important partner is, of course, young people themselves. And the day opened out with young people from West Kidlington Primary School, and you will hear from them shortly. Across the one-day conference, we hear from the latest in research, but also we listen to the lived experiences of young people to ensure that everybody who attends the event is really informed by young people's voices and visions. On the day, there are workshops that take place from the morning right through the conference to the end, alongside keynotes. So today you get an opportunity to listen to a few of those keynotes, and in the next 2 episodes there will be more of the people who were on the panels for the event, and leading sessions too. In these episodes, you will be guided by 19-year-old Molly, who did an amazing job of hosting Youth in Mind this year. The first episode begins with children from West Kidlington Primary School, and they were on stage at Youth in Mind this year, opening out the conference by sharing some of their opinions and ideas about what mental health is and why it is so important to listen to young people's voices. Following on from that section, you are going to get the chance to listen to the words and the wisdom of 2 remarkable leaders. Dr. Sarah Hughes, who is the CEO of Mind, and also Paul James, who's the CEO of River Learning Trust. So you'll get some really unique perspectives from the charity sector and also the education sector too. There really are so many valuable insights that are discussed, so grab a pen and some paper and a cup of tea. Take notes if that's your thing. Make sure that you have the opportunity to really absorb what is shared, and we hope that it goes on to make a difference to your own practice with children and young people. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Are You Listening, the Oxfordshire Youth podcast. This is a podcast for young people by young people to talk about the things we really care about. I'm Molly, I'm 19 and my pronouns are she, her. On this occasion, we're inviting kids onto the episode so you adults can listen to what they have to say. intervention is so important, so today we're excited to have a special live episode at Youth in Mind. Make some noise! If you didn't know, Youth in Mind is a mental health conference for professionals, and this year is the 5th year it's taking place. The theme of today's conference is Listen, Respond and Champion, which is a really exciting theme, especially to see so many professionals coming together to champion children and young people's mental health. This year, the call to action echoes the current needs of young people. The 3 words listen, respond and champion have been carefully chosen in order to make sure young people's voices are listened to, taken in, acted upon, celebrated and advocated for. Oxfordshire Youth and Oxfordshire Mind believe that children and young people need to be part of the conversation and are actively listened to. Young people like me need you to respond. I'm sure you know how important it is to champion children and young people and that celebrating us benefits everyone. This is why this year the following call to action was chosen: listen, respond and champion. There are going to be some exciting speakers coming on later. I'm so excited to see Dr. Sarah Hughes, who's the CEO of Mind, because I think what she'll have to say about the landscape of young people's mental health will be fascinating. I'm also excited to get to chat to some of the panellists who will be discussing neurodiversity and repositioning of power. Even though listening is important, it's more vital than ever for all of you here to respond and champion the things that young people, just like me and the children, bring to you. We're not only the future, but we are right now. And this is when these changes are needed. It's so brilliant to see so many people here coming together to support children and young people across the county. We're also excited to be joined by West Kidlington Primary School. Make some noise. Hello everyone, let's go around and introduce ourselves.
Hi, my name's Amy.
Hi, my name's Neil.
Hi, I'm Bea.
Hi, I'm Sam.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
Hello, my name's Ella. I'm Isaac. I'm Jacob.
Awesome. So my first question is, what does mental health mean to you?
Mental health is your emotions and how you feel daily. How people feel inside and out is their mental health.
I see mental health as a head filled with loads of colours, each colour representing a different emotion.
Mental health is all of the different ways you are feeling and thinking. It can be good, bad, and between.
So what does the word champion mean to you?
If you champion someone, you help them to overcome things, or you overcome them yourself.
Champion means to give someone a big boost.
If you champion someone, you celebrate them.
So what can you do as a mental health champion?
At school we have a den, and where people who are feeling down can come in to relax, play, read, colour and draw. It's a place where we make the children feel safe.
We have a rota, so there'll be always about four to five of us in there every day supporting the other children in our school. There are lots of situations where people don't always want to open up, so this is a safe space for them to play.
There are also people who patrol the playground to help anyone who needs support. Sometimes people don't always feel comfortable coming to the den on their own, so we are there to help them.
If you think about your teachers, what does it mean to you when they champion your mental health?
When you speak to someone you trust, it takes a lot of weight off your shoulders.
By speaking to someone, it means that you're not bottling all your feelings up.
It's really helpful to be listened to, so you feel like you're not alone.
When teachers support our mental health and well-being, it makes us all feel supported.
Why is it so important to listen to your voices?
When you listen to us, it makes us feel included in the decisions that are being made.
By listening to us, it is important that you understand how we feel.
When you listen to what we have to say, you could take it in and pass it on to someone else who needs it. It's important that you listen to us just in case it can help other people.
When you listen to children and young people, you can respond to us and champion us.
Thank you all for your incredibly insightful answers. Throughout the day, you'll be playing with triangles to make sure everyone's staying on time for all of their workshops, which is a little different from last year. Would you like to give us a bit of a demonstration of what people should expect? This will either be very zen or very loud, so brace yourselves. 3, 2, 1. Today. I wonder if anyone in the audience was really paying attention whilst our whisper game was happening during this introduction. If you were really listening, now's the time for you to say your responses to what West Kidlington Primary School has just said. There'll be a microphone passed from left to right.
listen. And respond in a thoughtful way.
I was struck by the colours, that people see and hear and think and see the world differently, so you can't know what everybody's feeling and thinking. You've got to really just listen to the person who thinks. Supporting each other. I will say it.
I was early, but nobody told me anything. I didn't get anything.
Same.
We didn't get a message. It's sadly the same.
Well, the same, but I'm going to make it up anyway. I think that I loved mental health is good, bad, and in the middle.
Absolutely amazing. Thanks, guys. No message reached me, though.
Never give up.
Talking about staying on time, our time is almost up for this intro. We'll be hanging out throughout the day talking to different speakers, professionals, children and youth workers. These are conversations you're not going to want to miss, so keep locked in to Are You Listening? So we've just come off stage at Youth in Mind and I'm overjoyed to be joined by Dr. Sarah Hughes. So tell me a bit about yourself and your role.
Wow, well, I have been at National Mind now since the 9th of July, so literally 6 months virtually to the day. And I've worked in mental health for about 35 years, mostly in charities and different kind of organisations. I've worked in Royal Prison, so a long career in mental health, one that I'm super proud of and feel like it's my life's work.
Yeah, you should be. That's amazing. So what have you enjoyed about Youth in Mind so far?
Well, I mean, firstly, I really feel like that kind of establishing the tone of the day through the podcast and the conversations with the young people, that really kind of made me feel comfortable, made me feel kind of warm, and I was inspired, and I really kind of felt that co-creation, really kind of felt the theme, the golden threads that would take us through the day. So this is a great space for children and young people's mental health.
Yeah, definitely. What have been your top 3 takeaways so far?
But you know, I thought the young person who said that mental health is good, bad, and something in the middle, I thought was really insightful, actually. And I think we very rarely talk about the spectrum of mental health, which is, you know, we've all got mental health, but we aren't always mentally well or mentally ill. You know, we kind of travel up and down depending on what's going on in the world. Of course, if you've got an actual diagnosis, you know, you can sit in the mentally ill bit a bit longer than perhaps the other end. But nonetheless, we're all on that spectrum.
Yeah, that was a great way of putting it. I noticed you mentioned about the cost of living crisis. How do you think professionals can support young people impacted by the cost of living?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's really important that all mental health services understand the impact the cost of living crisis is having on children and young people, either because of the impact it's having on families in terms of the ability to buy clothes, food, pay bills, the additional stress on families, the pressure on young people to get money to go to college, to do all those sorts of things, to buy their own clothes, to have a life. We absolutely cannot underestimate the impact that it's having. We certainly know, for instance, that self-harm in girls quite often is attributed to poverty and, you know, those sorts of things. And so I think it's important that mental health professionals, firstly, as I say, understand that, accept it. There is an absolute link between mental illness and poverty. And therefore, if you're working with somebody, really make sure that you're asking the questions. Are they, in financial peril? Do they need support? Do they need signposting? Equip yourself with that information. I don't think you can be a mental health practitioner in today's world and not know this stuff. You have to be able to, in the very least, say, if you can't help them directly, I know where you can go.
Yeah, that's very important. What difference do you think local and national government could have in this conversation around young people's mental health?
I mean, they're central, really, and in some ways that's kind of unfortunate because they often don't have the answers we do. But nevertheless, I think local government has a real say because they make the decisions in terms of what's funded, how people are supported in terms of community assets and so on. I think that the integrated care systems, which are the new commissioning systems locally, there are 42 around the country, they're responsible for making sure that children and young people's needs are met. So we really need local government to be kind of drawing all of the evidence together, advocating, making sure that the needs are properly assessed, and therefore we know at local level what we should be delivering. And ultimately, national government really needs to create policy that is creating the conditions for mental health to thrive. So policy that I'm talking about really impacts those people who are the most poorly served from the system as it is. So I want to see welfare reform. I want to see education reform. I want to see eradication of poverty. I want to see an eradication of racism and discrimination. Because ultimately, if those things were dealt with, we absolutely know that the majority of people experiencing mental health distress, including children and young people, the dial would shift immediately. And so we talk about, we don't want to pathologise, over-medicalise, mental health, because actually I think that quite a lot of the experiences people have is because we haven't got the social conditions right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a real question of, is it a chemical imbalance in the brain, or is it a symptom, a side effect of the world that we're living in?
Absolutely. And I think, you often hear people talk about young people nowadays and say, gosh, snowflakes, which I think if anybody says that term to me, then I'll get the look. That's only reserved for my children usually, but nonetheless. The truth is that children and young people are dealing with a raft of challenges that no previous generation has ever dealt with before. So it's entirely unfair to compare children and young people's experience now with what we've had before. And so as a result, I think that we really need to look carefully at what's going on in the world and think about all of those things together and the impact that it's having. If I talk to my children and young people at home, I have children, and I'll say, put that phone down, too much screen time. Actually, for them, often it's the only place where they might get comfort. They might know friends and people who are more like them than they might find in their home environment. So it's not one thing or the other. It's quite complex, but nonetheless, I don't think I accept that genes and the way our bodies are, that there is there are biological causes, but not in the main. It's about social determinants.
Talking of social determinants, social situations, as an autistic young person, I've noticed a real link between neurodiversity and sort of increased rates of anxiety and depression. I was wondering if this was something you've observed, and what do you think this is? Absolutely
is true. And in fact, I've got ADHD, and so from a neurodiversity perspective, I absolutely know that feelings of anxiety, depression, exclusion, loneliness are consequences of the environment around you not being inclusive, thoughtful, the lack of understanding around neurodiversity really, I think, still now is such that people mistake behaviours, people misunderstand, people with neurodiversity are still excluded from work, school, friendships, relationships. And there's a psychological cost to that. And I know throughout my life, before I was properly diagnosed about 10 years ago, that the impact of my own neurodiversity meant that I would experience high levels of anxiety, not really know why or how, and it's only through diagnosis, it's only through talking to other people that you can really make sense.
I was wondering, you said something during your talk. What makes you so proud of this generation?
Well, gosh, so much really, so much. The idea of pride in this generation really started from the pandemic because I could see it clearly. I could see very clearly what our children and young people were doing. Not only were they tolerating the biggest social crisis, health crisis of our time, not only were they tolerating that, but they were having to be homeschooled, they were having to deal with, kind of changes in their relationships, their friendships, risks to their own health. For instance, we were a shielding family. And so, all of these things, I could see our children and young people, kind of their resilience growing every day, But aside from that, I've had the fortunate experience of working alongside young people in different projects over the years. And I remember speaking to a young person in a project in Tottenham working with young men who'd been excluded from school, who were at risk of mental illness and gangs and criminal justice and so on. And he actually said to me, it absolutely infuriates me when people say children and young people need to be more resilient. Because how dare they say that about us? Do they understand what we're having to survive every day? Yeah. And it was at that moment, and this was probably about 8 years ago, that my whole mind shifted into, actually, our children and young people are dealing with stuff that we've never had to deal with. And my Lord, aren't they doing it with finesse? And increasingly, the kind of language around social justice. My children are fluent in social justice in a way that I absolutely never was. And so I am super proud of that. And so, there's loads of reasons, but that's just some of them.
Yeah, me too. Even just talking to the students at West Kidlington, all of them are so vibrant, despite everything.
Absolutely.
And so eloquent, and they did very well. I'm very proud too.
Yeah, we need to listen. We just need to listen, because often, you have parents and lots of people wandering around going, oh, I don't know what to do. Actually, the kids know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Although, don't tell my kids that. Yeah. Because we don't want them to know that.
Thank you so much for coming and chatting to me. You were amazing to watch on stage, and thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
We're back at Youth in Mind, and tell me a little bit about yourself and your role.
So I'm Paul James. I'm the Chief Exec of a large multi-academy trust, which is a family of schools that works in Oxfordshire and a couple of schools in Swindon. So we have 28 schools in total, 9 secondary schools and 19 primary schools, and we also have a teacher training provider as part of our trust. So and we've been in existence. We've grown from a couple of schools back in 2013, and over the last 10 years it's become 28. And I was initially a head teacher of one of the schools in the trust, and prior to that, teacher.
So what have you enjoyed about Youth in Mind so far?
For me, in the role that I have now in schools, it's been brilliant to just stop and reflect more deeply about this issue and the responsibilities that we have in schools and the opportunities that we have to really influence the day-to-day experience of children and young people. I think in my role, a key part of the work that we do within the trust is support leaders to thrive and do their work really well. We don't tell our heads how to run their schools. We want our heads to lead really well, but enabling them to lead in this space to help them develop really healthy cultures in their schools where children and young people feel connected and belong, I think there's more work actually that even I can do in my work with our schools to help them develop. So.
What have been your top 3 takeaways so far from today's conference?
Top 3 takeaways for me have been have open, honest conversations with external partners. And the reason I say that is because sometimes everyone can be too quick to put up barriers if it can be a bit difficult. And I think one of the things I was saying today is about how important it is that the interactions we have with external partners needs to be really clear and simple and straightforward to help get that engagement going. And to get to that point, it's helpful if you can have sort of honest, open conversations about expectations. So I think just being open to those conversations I think is really, really good. Secondly, definitely really reinforced today about the voice of children and young people. Real passionate believer in that. I think I said in my talk, though, the way that we respond to that isn't, I have to say, I'm not naive to think that actually it will always be what that child or young person will initially have thought would be the result of their voice being heard. But if you have the right relationships and trust being built between children and young people in their schools and their trusted adults, actually that does allow interventions and supports to very much take into account the voice of the child as well as the evidence base of what we know works and best supports children and young people's mental health and well-being, and those of the staff actually in the school. So that's 2, isn't it?
That's okay.
So 1, open, honest conversations. 2, voice of children and young people, and 3, I think it just for me reinforces my energy and optimism for this work. It's too easy to just focus on the shortcomings, the lack of funding, the lack of access to this or that. Actually, we have incredible opportunities with our day-to-day interactions with each other, what we model, how we speak to each other, how we speak to our children and young people. As I said, I think we should be optimistic and hopeful about the difference that we can make.
Are there any positive changes that you've seen so far in schools in how they deal with mental health and neurodiversity?
Oh, I definitely think there's a much higher level of awareness around the need to address the support for mental health and connectedness with neurodiversity. So and it's something that we have within the trust in terms of supporting inclusivity. And what I also know is across when you have a group of 28 schools, some schools will be further ahead in their sort of journey of providing that truly healthy culture, about being really inclusive, about addressing the challenges that they face than others. And that's okay, but it is about how we work together to enable all schools to be reaching the best standards, the highest sort of provision that they're able to provide for their pupils. And that's one of the advantages of being able to work in a trust, because we are able to go, look, this is happening and it's going really well over here, what can we learn? Now, you might not implement what they're doing exactly as they are in a different school, because the contexts are different and the children and young people are different and the leaders are different and the colleagues are different, but there is always learning to be taken when things are being done well, and that would include in this area. So those schools which I think I referred to it earlier in my talk, you take a really thoughtful approach, for example, around their personal development curriculum. So this sense of the whole experience, what is it like to be a child in my school? What is their day-to-day experience like, from the behaviour and how it feels in the classroom, for their ability to achieve and feel success in their academic work, for their opportunities to build resilience and that sense of character, the ability to learn through failure. I'm a big fan as well of that notion of doing hard things and recognising that actually as we do hard things and sometimes we fail, and that's okay, but what we build is a resilience to, oh, actually that was okay. Mm-hmm. So then the next time I face that thing, I might be a bit less anxious about it or troubled by it, and I'm more ready to kind of tackle it. And it is such a complex area that I think I see certainly some of our roles then centrally is supporting our schools to do that work well and supporting those leaders. So it's a bit of a sort of a sweeping response, because it's I could give some granular details, but I think it's more a sense of understanding the complexity and then great leadership of that area. I think is where you see things being done really well in schools. Also, I think it's also really important to then, I also see incredible work being done by those colleagues, often support staff colleagues, who are working with the most troubled and vulnerable students in schools, so often those who are struggling to access mainstream lessons on a day-to-day basis, and the relationships they form to be, I was in one of our schools recently, and it was like, seeing these interactions, it was the epitome of a trusted adult. This child who was really struggling, lots of settings in the school, but in this place with this adult was comfortable, was safe, was able to learn, and that is deeply inspiring, I think, when you see adults as well who are able to build those relationships, and that's something that I wouldn't want us ever to lose from the profession. I mean, it's even there in the teacher standards, this sense of building positive relationships, rather than kind of being mechanistic about what we do. It's a human activity, working in schools. So, that sense of building constructive, positive relationships is really important. And as I said, and I think that can vary sometimes between schools, and part of my role is to help develop that across a system.
Yeah, that's so important. Do you have any tips for teachers or professionals as to how they could build that sort of a relationship?
I think part of it is it's the little things. So sometimes we talk about the micro interactions. So the welcoming at the door, the welcoming at the school gate. So it's the difference between, and I've seen both in schools, a colleague who's there on duty in the morning, and they're standing there at the school gate, and their children, or young people, could be primary, secondary, are walking in, and they're really busy, so they're on their phone clearing some emails. The difference between that and having their phone in their pocket and being the smiling face, the welcoming, the naming, the good morning Sarah, it's great to see you, nice to see you, have a good day, brilliant. All of those, the micro interactions of you belong here, we are here together, and you should feel like you belong in this school. Or the child who is quite frequently absent from a lesson. Okay, from a teacher perspective, can be really challenging, because it's a bit like, I really want this child to work their way through the curriculum, and they're not here, and they're behind, and it's really difficult. So when they walk in the classroom, I have all of these feelings, and actually the most important thing I should do is welcome them back. And the issue is if you know the children that you're working with, you then know whether it's brilliant to see you as they walk in the door, or whether it's you just let them come in and sit down, and just go and have a quiet word and say it's really nice to see you back. Because depending on the child, they will warm and feel more included by different kind of responses. So it's quite nuanced, and that's what is partly what makes the challenge. But I think that's where there are I think some simple, thoughtful changes sometimes that can be made in schools about how we help to build a sense of belonging, because it is day-to-day interactions. You can't, as a school leader, run an assembly and go, right, we all belong here. Human relationships don't work like that. So how are we doing the little things to show that each of our humanities matters in the context of our school environment, so we build healthy cultures and positive relationships where children and young people feel that they belong in those settings, because we know it's a huge protective factor when it comes to mental health.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was amazing. Your speech was great earlier, and thank you for talking to me.
Pleasure. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you.
Amazing. So many gems were shared from Paul James, speaking about how important it is for humanity to be brought back into the centre of kind of school life. And then we had Sarah Hughes talking about the impact of the cost of living crisis, poverty and racism on young people's mental health. There's just so much for us to be thinking about in terms of these big themes, but I really valued their perspectives and hope that you got a lot out of it too. Does anyone else want to build a den like West Kidlington Primary School? I would love one here at Oxfordshire Youth. So much great work is happening to support children and young people's mental health, and that really heartens me at a time where things can feel super challenging. So part 2 and 3 of these conversations are coming up next. But in the meantime, let's keep the conversation about mental health going. Whether you want to tell us your thoughts on this episode or you would like to learn a bit more about Oxfordshire Youth, make sure you check out our website, www.oxfordshireYouth.org, and please follow us on social media. We're Ox Youth on Twitter, Oxfordshire Youth on TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.